So that the condition of the roads leads us straight on to the reason why the second Nyali Bridge is needed. As I said, there's only one link going to the north of the island, and that's the existing Nyali Bridge. It was built in 1979, so it's not that old, and it's served Mombasa well since then. And it's in a reasonable state of repair. However, it's fair to say that it's reaching its capacity, not just the bridge itself, but the roads that lead to it. And as a result of that, it's congested. It has heavy traffic, particularly during rush hour, and it doesn't provide the service that Mombasa requires. So that's led to the need for a second Nyali Bridge. To decongest the area, the bridge and surrounding area, to provide a second link, to improve the travel times, and to drive forward the economy and enable the economy to move forward within Mombasa County. So it's a core element of the overall strategy for transport improvements within the area. And as such, it's consistent with the urban and transport master plan that's being developed at the moment. And we've been very much in close contact with the consultants who have been undertaking that work, so that it is a core element going forward. So let's have a look at a bit more detail of what I've just said. The existing traffic over the Nyali Bridge, at least 50,000 daily trips that we measured when we undertook a traffic count, and a more recent traffic count has had a yet higher figure. And you can very clearly see the profile of that traffic. You can see the blue line there, which is the traffic which is going onto Mombasa Island, with a peak in the morning. You can see the afternoon peak coming away from Mombasa Island heading north, slightly lower level, more spread out. And as I said, that level of traffic is about as much as the existing bridge can cope with. And as a result of that, that leads to congestion. I think for anyone who's lived in Mombasa or visited Mombasa on a regular basis, you wouldn't be surprised that traveling on some of the regular trips, trying to go to the north of Mombasa for, say, 8 kilometers, can quite easily take an hour. That's not uncommon. It's not an acceptable level of service. It draws Mombasa back, not being able to guarantee that you can get where you want to get to at the time you want to get to. So you can easily find that you're traveling at less than walking pace. We looked at who was traveling and where they wanted to go to. And it was very clear early on from the origin destination survey that our traffic consultants here today conducted that most people wanted to go towards the central business district of Mombasa. That was the core destination. And that was critical in where the bridge should be. And who was it that was traveling? Why were they traveling? Primarily, going to work is the biggest reason by far. You can see from this is very much a commuter bridge that is required. It's a totally different traffic profile and economic profile to the projects that we've heard about this morning. And what type of people were traveling? I know you won't be able to see the detailed text there. You won't be particularly surprised to see that, or to hear that the people who are traveling in cars, in vans, and matatus, the small buses that were talked about earlier. Lorries only actually constitute a small proportion of the total traffic, down at around 8%. They aren't a critical factor in this scheme. So when we actually started the project, one of the first elements that we had to undertake was to decide where the bridge should be. And so we went through what was a very objective process to look against the environmental factors, against costs, against engineering ease of different sites, to decide where it would be. I think it's worth saying that throughout this project, we and Kura have been working very closely with Mombasa County Government. They're a key stakeholder in this project. They're fully on board. They want it to succeed. And they are very excited that we have reached the stage we have and are getting close now to being able to go out to procurement. They cannot see it happen early enough. So, when we were looking at where it should be, we had an open slate. We looked at a wide range, both to the north and to the south of the existing Nyali Bridge. And for instance, we actually looked at the site of the old pontoon bridge that you mentioned earlier. That was back in the 40s onwards, that was a PPP itself. That was a tolled bridge and was undertaken by a private company with access roads provided by government. That part has not changed. We're not trying to do something which is fundamentally new, but what we have now is the benefit of an environment for PPPs, which is designed for that through the PPP Act and all the work that the PPP unit has been doing. So it's much more conducive to be able to do this project and other projects as it is now. So the site that we have chosen is actually not far from the site of the old pontoon bridge. It's between the existing Nyali Bridge and the sea. And it's not just a bridge, as I said, but also the feeder roads that lead to it. Because without that corridor, which provides the access for people to be able to get to and from the bridge, you won't have the ability to recognize the economic benefits that you need. And a little bit of detail about the site itself. So you'll see that on the mainland, which is on the right-hand side of the screen, that has two sections. At the bottom of that is a narrower line, which is an existing road. What was known as Nyali Road, now known as Fidel Odinga Road. But it wasn't practical to expand that road. So to achieve the full economic benefits of the scheme, we need to actually create a new road through Congo. And so that there will be the ability to use the existing road in the meanwhile, while that potentially is created. And that's important from a timing perspective and a contracting perspective, because the contracting structure we have advised is that there should be that bit of the project be included in the scheme as a priced option to allow for that flexibility for land to be acquired in time for that to be delivered. Coming back to what the bridge will need to be and what capacity it needs to give. The bridge itself needs to have 2 lanes for general traffic. It needs to have room for cyclists and pedestrians. We need to improve the road safety in Kenya, and actually non-motorized traffic is a core element of the existing traffic which goes over the Nyali Bridge. We need to improve that. And that fundamental shift to actually have specified lanes for cyclists will be a big help on that. And you'll also notice at the middle of the road there that there is an additional lane. That needs to be flexible at the moment for how that will be used. In time, it's almost certain that there will need to be a new mass rapid transit system in Mombasa, in the same way that one is planned for Nairobi. That scheme isn't there at the moment, but if you don't put a capacity for it now on the bridge, you're never going to have it there in the future. So it's been determined that the second Nyali Bridge should have that capacity, which could be used for a mass rapid transit, or it could be used for general motorized traffic. When undertaking the feasibility study, we had long conversations with Kura, Mombasa County Government, and others, assessing which type of bridge should be used as the conceptual design. And the two that ranked highest on that were a cable-stayed bridge and a suspension bridge. And ultimately it was determined that we should go for a suspension bridge as the optimal solution for the contract. And as you can see from this picture, the conceptual design which people have come up with, that our advisors have come up with, I think is extremely beautiful. I would wish to see an ultimate design being created by the bidders for this project, which looks as good as that. Let's go into a bit more detail about what the project will be. I've described the bridge and its capacity, the approach ramps, and then you come to the improvement and creation of new or expanded roads. So both Abdel Nasser and Links roads are existing roads. Those areas need to be expanded to 4 lanes, so two lanes of motorized traffic in each direction. And Kongoware is a new road which needs to be created. Then coming back to a common theme of today, land and land acquisition. That's very relevant to this scheme. Obviously on the water, there's no existing right-of-way. That's easy, no problem. For the bridge ramps, those will be, need to be bought. But if you take the bridge ramps and Abdel Nasser Road together, those are relatively small amounts of land. We're talking less than 2 hectares in total between those two. And we have already talked to the people that live in those areas, undertaken the preliminary environmental and social impact assessments, resettlement action plans for those areas. In respect of Links Road, the intention is to use the existing right-of-way. Now that's using that to the full, I think I should say. If you were starting from now, you would probably have a much wider right-of-way, but we're not starting from now. And it's not realistic to actually expand that to any great extent. That then leaves Kongoware, which needs to be a new right-of-way entirely. And because of that, because of the risks of land acquisition and timing, that's the reason why I said that that will be requested as a priced option within the bridge to provide that degree of flexibility, to de-risk the project, to make sure that it happens. Because there is the alternative route, even if it's not ideal at that point, but there is an alternative route which will mean that the bridge is useful and will help in the meanwhile. But we are very keen to see the whole scheme progress as fast as possible. We don't want to have any delay. We want it to be done at the same time. But we just recognize that we need to plan ahead to allow for flexibility. So let's look back at the structure. As I said, it's an availability-based contract. It is the same general structure that has been talked about throughout this morning. So it will be tolled by a third-party operator on behalf of the Kenyan government. And that toll income will go into the toll fund, which will be backstopped by the Kenyan government with the letter of support that has been mentioned. Deductions, very similar to the way that you've heard earlier on today, with deductions for road being closed or not in good condition, and any of those in a standard PPP factor fashion. So if the performance level sinks so badly, then that has the potential to lead to needing to replace the contractor and can lead to termination. This bridge needs to be kept and maintained and operated to a high standard. We need to make sure that the innovation of the private sector is used to the full, that there is life cycle planning, that it is maintained and it stays in the condition which is appropriate for a road or a bridge like this. And I think you've heard this morning a couple of times about the indexation provisions that there will be. So not just inflation, which is the standard for most PPP projects, but also in respect of foreign exchange risk for foreign exchange borrowing and interest rate risks for local currency borrowing. And with this general structure being similar, so too the risk allocation matrix. There is no difference in essence between the projects on this, just difference in the nature of the schemes. And most importantly, when is it going to happen? Answer, as soon as possible. We have done great work to get the scheme to this condition. This has been very close cooperation with Kura, with Mombasa County Government, to ensure that everyone is happy with where the bridge is, what the bridge is, how it will be structured. And with that, there is no reason now why it shouldn't progress rapidly. And I hope at the end of the day we will see something like the conceptual design or some new improved design, which will be there soon to be able to allow the people of Mombasa to travel in comfort, at reasonable speed, and to get to work and get home when they need to. This scheme will deliver great things for the people of Mombasa. Thank you.
Thank you for appreciating John Ponsonby for that second Nyali bridge presentation. I think we again ask John to take a seat, and our DG Kura. If we have a project team leader in Kura also,